Welcome back, friends and enemies. It's me once again, and as always, I'm here to talk to you about another card game. Now, to be honest, I didn't want to make a video about this card game, but in my overzealousness to make the card game review series, I ended up buying a deck to remind myself how to play so that I could talk about it. And while of course I know that this is a biased series, it's all my opinions on different card games, I still want to try and judge this fairly because I don't like this card game much at all. So enough blabbing and let's get into the video. If you're a fan of anime, there's a good chance that you've heard of a card game called Weiss Schwarz. It's a card game that's generally prolific for having cards based around different anime like Fairy Tail and Kill la Kill and Angel Beats, stuff like that. When I first heard about Weiss Schwarz, I was a giant weeb, so of course I thought, oh, that must be a great card game to play. And then I played it. I didn't have fun much. I'm not saying that people don't have fun with Weiss Schwarz. I want to make that very clear. People tend to have a lot of fun with Weiss Schwarz, and when I say that I don't like it much, people kind of give me that look like, are you sure? Are you sure you don't like Weiss Schwarz? And while, like I said, most of the cards are themed around different anime, they did make an Adventure Time deck, which I bought specifically for this video like 8 months ago. Surprisingly, as much as I don't really hear about people playing Weiss Schwarz all that much, the card game is still going. It's never been discontinued, it's still going to this day, which I find kind of crazy. Maybe more people play it than I hear about, but I feel like I would hear about it more, right? Oh well, whatever. Forget about it. Enough with the introduction to the game, let's go ahead and move on to the basics. Now I should put a disclaimer here that while I have played Weiss Schwarz with other people, I haven't played in a long time, so everything I'm about to do for you, I'm gonna show from the rule book and piecing together what I remember. So the editing of the next portion might be a little bit sloppy, I hope that it's not, but let's go. So here we have the field for Weiss Schwarz. To start the game, we're going to set down our deck that is going to consist of exactly 50 cards and put it in our deck zone. And then we're going to draw 5 cards into our hand. At the beginning of our turn, we're going to draw, as always, but unlike most card games, even the player that's going first gets to draw. If there are any cards in your hand that you end up not liking, you can take those cards and put them into your waiting room, and then you draw the same amount of cards from your deck back into your hand. Weiss Schwarz cards come in a couple of different colors, much like Magic cards. There is yellow, which is speed, green, which is power, red, which is technical, and blue, which is advantage. Now there are a couple of different cards we have to look at and some parts of those cards that we have to look at. First up are our character cards. There are a couple of different parts of our character cards. Up in the top left-hand corner, you can see the level of the card as well as the cost of the card. Generally speaking, when you're first starting out with Weiss Schwarz, you want to play a lot of zero-cost cards, but if your card does have a cost to it that's more than 0, that requires you to take cards from your stock and put them into your waiting room in order to play this card, kind of like a mana base. Up in the upper right-hand corner of the character card, you can see the trigger effect. Sometimes this will be blank, and sometimes this will have an icon in it that will only happen during the trigger step of your attack phase. Down in the lower left-hand corner, you can see the power, and if you look very closely, you can see the very small soul right next to the power. A character's power is the damage that it will deal to an opponent's character, and a character's soul is the damage that it will deal directly to your opponent if you get a hit through to them. The second type of card we're going to look at is a climax card. These are functionally the same as other cards, but the difference between them is these have effects that are used throughout the turn. They're kind of like your spell cards in Weiss Schwarz. Now, immediately after your draw phase, if you would like, you can choose to take a card from your hand and put it into your clock. If you do put a card into your clock, you can go ahead and draw 2 more cards. But if you don't, your clock will just stay empty and you'll still have 6 cards in your hand. The clock is used for a unique game mechanic to Weiss Schwarz that is leveling up. When you get 7 cards in your clock, you level up to your next level. Once you hit level 4, you lose the game. Whenever an opponent's character does damage to you, you're going to mill the top cards of your deck equal to the number of soul damage that you're going to take and put that number into your clock. Now, entering our main phase, we're going to play down a card into our center stage. After our main phase, we have our climax phase. If we have a climax card in our hand, we can go ahead and put it into the climax area and let its effects resolve. We can then choose to attack if we'd like, wherein a couple different things can happen. First, after we attack, we enter our trigger step, wherein we're going to take the top card of our deck and flip it around, and take a look at the top corner to see if it adds anything to our attack. This one does not. Next, we're going to take that card and put it face down into our stock. Our stock can be used later to pay for costs of higher level cards. Next, we'll enter our counterattack step, where if our opponent has a card that can back up their other cards, they can use that here. Next, we enter our damage step. If we're just doing a direct attack to our opponent, they're going to take damage equal to the soul point of our character. If we attack and our opponent has a creature, the creature with the lower power gets reversed. If our creature's powers equal each other, both creatures get reversed. You can also do a side attack, wherein instead of attacking the other character directly, you are trying to attack around them, and then your soul will be reduced by their level. Lastly, we have the encore step. If our character attacked an opponent's character and got reversed, we put it into the waiting room. After the attack step is the end phase. At the end of our turn, we're going to take any climax cards we have and put them into the waiting room. Then, if we have 8 or more cards in our hand, we're going to take out the excessive cards and put them into the waiting room until we only have 7 cards in our hand. Then, we pass the turn. At the beginning of the next turn, we have a stand phase, which is before the draw phase, and essentially it's just an untap phase. If your creature was used, you bring it back into an active position. And that's the basics of Weiss Schwarz. Looking back on it now, I do have some kind of fond memory, although, some of it still isn't great. I did like the clock mechanic when I first heard about it, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of weird and hard to keep up with, in my mind anyway. So, how would I rate this game? Weiss Schwarz is a weird card game. It's very easily accessible if you'd like to play it. As far as I've been able to tell, there is no online version of the game, so you can't really play Weiss Schwarz digitally. You do have to buy paper, as far as I know. But overall, if you would like to play the game, it is pretty easy to get into. Decks are generally around $15 to $20 normal deck price. And overall, it's a game for anime fans, and there are a lot of anime fans out there, and I can't blame them for wanting to play this game. Final thoughts on the game. I don't really find Weiss Schwarz all that fun. I do think it's interesting game mechanic wise. I do think it just has a lot of moving parts that are kind of unnecessary that you have to keep track of. I understand the need for a cost for certain cards, but I feel like it could have been done in a better way, especially if you're already worrying about the clock mechanic. That being said, putting it all together, I would probably rate Weiss Schwarz 4.5 out of 10, maybe a 5 out of 10. Just kind of hitting that middle bar there, not great, but not the worst card game that's ever been made. And those are my thoughts on Weiss Schwarz. If you liked the video, please let me know down below. I've got quite a few others. We're moving on from card games that I have played with other people, moving on to card games that I am interested in but haven't gotten the chance to play yet. And I'm going to be reviewing them based on how I perceive them as a game that I've learned. That being said, thank you all for watching. I have had such a good time doing this series, and until next time, drink your water.